Right, hi guys, this is Scapegoat Stephen. I'm here with hopefully the start of a new series of videos based on War Machine and Horde's High Command. This is a deck that I hadn't originally intended to put together for the format, but it's something that just happened after I got the new Faith and Fortune core set. I play Mercs at the moment. I looked at originally doing a Laerle's Highborn Covenant deck, but I actually found when my brother-in-law just put a 4-star zombie Thrall spam deck out against me that it was something I wanted to try. I have both the current expansions, Engines of Destruction coming out less than a week ago, so I'm trying to build what is essentially just a pure infantry spam deck to see if it can work. The first 2-3 games that I've played it, this is prior to Engines of Destruction coming out, but it does include the first expansion pack. The deck worked pretty well. I've won the 2 solo one-on-one games that I've played with it. I came second in the 4-way, and that was between this deck, a Khador deck, a Legion deck, and a Retribution of Syra deck. That was, to be honest, that was one of the times when the core sets from War Machine and Hordes proved they've got more victory point purchasing ability, because I lost by about 2 points, I think, and I'd captured 2 locations, whereas the Khador deck had only captured 1, and I'd got 15 points worth of locations. He had 6, so he basically bought his way to victory, which is a little bit of a shame, and I hope that's something that balances out a bit more as the game expands. I think it's going to be difficult perhaps for the Faith and Fortune because the core sets don't have that kind of victory point purchasing power, but I do quite like the locations and the Winds of War deck out of Faith and Fortune. I think they're much nicer, and to be honest, I think they play better than the War Machine and Horde's core Winds of War and location decks. But I'll do a separate video on those. Basically, I'll go through each of the expansions that I have and each of the core sets I have, and just sort of go through what their locations are, what their Winds of War are, just to give you a feel. Especially now the new Kingmaker document and rules have come out, which basically states when building a deck for a tournament, you can take any Winds of War and any location deck from any of the applicable expansions, which means you could have the base Winds of War deck, say from Faith and Fortune core set, and then you could throw in the location deck from the War Machine expansion Gates Invasion of Saul. So it's quite an interesting thing, especially as it allows a certain amount of perhaps tailoring of your deck towards a certain location spread. However, it mightn't be that you don't use your location deck in your Winds of War. It might be that your opponent uses theirs. So it's very interesting, and I would, to be honest, I probably need to take part and maybe organise some Kingmakers just to see how that plays out. We've got a very new sort of group down here. We've got at least, off the top of my head, I can list about 8 players who could make it probably to a local event, so I probably need to run one. But I reckon you could probably get more than that, and even get some people, some more casual people in, and perhaps even rope in some new players, which is what I'm looking to in the next few months. But anyway, onto the actual deck itself. This is a yellow, purple, green deck. And it uses not a single warjack. There are no warjacks in this deck at all. It is based purely on command and being able to recycle and rush and get out cheaper-ish infantry as quickly as possible to take locations as quickly as possible. It can contest locations, but not as well as some other decks. It doesn't have the pure raw staying power that, say, Jack decks would have. Especially things like Khador, when you get them to obnoxious levels of health. But hopefully there's plenty of trickery and plenty of horrible little mess about bits in this deck to deal with that. So you've got your 12 standard basic resources. You have Piracy, which is the 0 command, 2 war. Oh, so not get the. See if we can get that to focus a bit better. Yeah, it says Piracy. There's more Piracy there. And then you have Intimidation, which is your 2 command 0 war. and you have Skullduggery, which is your 1 command, 1 war. Nice little names, some great artwork again, as always. Right, so we have Fiona the Black. She's actually running yellow. Originally this was Prime Magnus, but I feel her ability is better, especially in a non-Warjack deck. So she's got power of 2, rushes for 2 command, Battle Group Commander, which is the friendly Warjacks game, plus 1 power. Now, her ability is Dark Omen. So, when you rush Fiona, reveal the top card of your army deck. If it's a resource card, draw 2 cards. If not, destroy up to 1 card here with the same card type as the revealed card. So if I rush a warrior, I can destroy another warrior card if I don't draw a resource card, which doesn't specify your own warrior cards. So I get the impression you can use that on an enemy warrior card. So that would be quite nice, because it's either extra resource draw, which is extra card advantage, or you're killing off an enemy warrior, which is never a bad thing. So start with, we've got a couple of warrior thrall mobs. We've got 2 in this yellow deck. They cycle for 1/1. They are a 3/3. They rush for 7 but purchase for 3, and they have something called Thrall runes, which means you can deploy them from your discard pile, which essentially means they rush for 6 but don't rush. So when there's a card out preventing rushing, you can move them to your discard pile and then move them straight from your discard pile out into play. So they are quite nice for a 3/3. They're not bad either. Don't cycle for much, but you can't have everything. Got the Wandering Necromancer. He's a 1/3. He cycles for 2/0. He's worth a victory point. He purchases for 3, rushes for 6, and he has something called Deathfield, which is when you deploy or rush an undead card to this location, reduce the cost by 1 command. Sometimes these guys are worth it if you've got a lot of command in your hand. Sometimes they aren't, but they are worth VPs. So there's 2 of them in the yellow. So then we've got the Risen Thrall mob, which also cycles for 1/1. They are a 2/2 with Thrall runes again, so you can deploy them from your discard pile. Purchase 2, rush 6. So basically you pseudo rush for 4 because you buy them in for 2 and then buy them straight out. There's 2 of those. Now these are my new additions from the Engines of Destruction pack. These are the Cephalix Overlord Cabal. They cycle for 2/0. They are a 1/3. They purchase 3, rush 5. And they have Psychic Assault. When you deploy or rush this card, choose an opponent with cards at this location. He reveals 3 cards from his hand, and you choose one that must be discarded. So that's quite useful, because it slows down your opponent. There's actually 3 of them in this deck. And then we're on to the 3 resources. So we've got Broadside, which cycles for 4 or 4. It's worth a victory point and costs 8 to purchase. So it's quite expensive to purchase, but given the cost of things in this deck, it's very quick to get your stuff out. We have Boarding Action, which is the 3/1, and purchases for 4. Again, very useful for getting a lot of the command related stuff out of the deck. And it was either take this resource or take a Jack. I didn't want to take Jacks. So it's a 1/3, which purchases for 4 war. Essentially, this card gets either purchased at the very beginning of the game, and then are used to cycle a lot, or if I'm really desperate and short on a single command. But in all likeliness, it gets chucked out of the deck at the earliest possible opportunity. So we're into purple now, and we've got the new Engines of Destruction caster, Excellent Thexus. He is a 2 damage. He has Battle Group Commander, and he has Telekinetic Tide. He rushes for 2 war, which is my only downside of this guy. But when you rush him, you can move a card from one location to another. It doesn't state from his location to anywhere else. It doesn't state friendly or enemy. It's just move a card. So that would be quite nice, especially as this deck doesn't have the hitting power, as I mentioned previously. So we've got 3 Risen Thrall, Warrior Thrall mobs. We have 3 Risen Thrall mobs. We have 3 Wandering Necromancers. We have a Broadside, and then we have 2 of these things called Cultist Rituals. Now they cycle for 2/2, and they cost 2 and 2. When you discard this card for command or war, reveal the top card of your army deck to all players. If it's a basic resource, draw it. Very useful. I find I spend them a lot, and it really helps. Every now and then you'll get this nice extra resource card for the deck, which allows you to move just that little bit faster. So very nice. My only downside with this deck is obviously, as I said, Excellent does rush for 2 war, which I probably do have in the deck, but I like to get rid of the 0/2 resource cards as soon as possible, the piracy cards, out of the deck. So then you've got Drake McBain. He's 3. He rushes for 2 command. Battle Group Commander. True Grit. Friendly warrior cards at McBain's location cannot be destroyed. That is really useful. As I said, this entire deck is warrior cards. So not only does he add a bit of potent power, but he also adds in the staying power that sometimes some of these cards lose out on. So now we're into, again, some new additions from Engines of Destruction. This is the Royal Weight Cannon. So basically this is the Commodore but in battle engine form. Cycles for 2/2, is a 4/5, is worth a victory point. Purchases for 7, rushes for 11, so it's expensive, but I think it's probably worth it. Special ability Gunnery. At the start of an attack at this location, this card gains +1 power for each pirate in your reserves. This bonus lasts till the end of turn. To be honest, this deck is made primarily of pirate cards, but not exclusively, so that ability is just a nice side effect. To be honest, this guy's more here for the hitting power of 4 and the staying power of 5, because compared to a lot of the other cards in the deck, as you saw, at most they tend to be health 3, power 3 for some of the Risen, but this is a nice harder hitting card, and it's V point advantage in that sense. So there's 2 of those in there. Then we're on to First Mate Hawk. She cycles for 2 and 0. She is a 3/1, so she hits hard. She purchases for 4, rushes for 5. She's also worth a VP, and she has Object of Desire, which is at the start of an attack at this location. If there are any other friendly pirate cards here, this card cannot be destroyed this turn. That is kind of like superior range on some of the other cards. However, if you can kill everything else in front of her, she is also killed, which is a bit of a shame. I think the errata was because they realised superior range on that regard was really powerful. So there you go, there's 3 of her there. Sea Dog Rifleman. They are a 2 and a 0. They are a 1/2, and they 1 victory point. They rush for the same as their purchase cost of 3. And they have a really nifty rule called Concentrated Fire. At the start of an attack at this location, this card gains +1 power for each other friendly warrior card here until the end of turn. Note it says friendly warrior card, it does not say other pirate cards, which is the reason I've included them. They're cheap, they give you a victory point, they potentially get up to really obnoxious strength. So yeah, I quite like them, and there's 2 of them there. Now there are 3 Cutthroat and Highwayman cards in here. They cycle for 2 and 0, they are a 1/3. They purchase for 5, they rush for 6, they're worth a VP. None of that is the most important thing on their card. They have this rule called Backstab. When you deploy or rush this card, destroy 1 enemy warrior card at this location. Amazing. Annoys people no end. You just rush them somewhere, they pling a point of damage and basically kill something on the turn they arrive. They're worth the VP. They're very nice in this deck. They can get rid of nonsense high health infantry. I know that my Cyrus opponent really hates them, because obviously he can get his stuff up to like 4 or 5 health on his infantry, so you just rush that in, ping, gone. The victory point just sweetens the deal a bit, and there are 3 of them in there. And then we've got another boarding action resource and another cultist ritual. So that is how the makeup of the deck looks. What I will do now is I'm going to quickly pause the video, and I am going to very, very quickly lay the deck out as though how it would look perhaps in the first couple of turns, just to show you what I would do when playing the deck. Right, so here's an example first turn. I literally just shuffled the deck and pulled these out. So what I've got 2 Piracies, which are the 0 command 2 war. I've got 2 Intimidation, which are the 2 command 0 war, and 2 of the 1/1 Skullduggeries. I've actually got 2 resources straight away down there. So what I'll probably do is I will probably spend the 4 command and 4 war straight away. Put them over there. I'll buy the broadside. Oh my, sitting there you go, got another broadside straight away. That is a near perfect start to this deck. What we'll probably do then is actually spend that Skullduggery and flip either the Cutthroats or the Risen. We'll probably flip the Risen at the moment. Oh, there we go, we've got 2 Cutthroats now. Right, so that's sort of like a very good sample turn 1. I will then bank that one, draw the rest. So we're pulling out, there you go, 2 Piracies 2 intimidations and 3 skullduggeries. So yeah, we'll probably start that by going 2 or 4 and 4 and buying the other broadside straight away. We've got 3 cards left. You can't really do much with because they're all 1/1s, although we could, I guess, purchase something. So it's either a case of we save for the Cultist Ritual or we buy the Warrior Thrall. I'll buy the Warrior Thrall at this point because it's also a 1/1, and it gets it off there. And there you go. That's what we're left with at the end of 2 turns. So we're now going to come to sort of draw again. What I will get rid of at this point is I'll actually get rid of the Piracy card to the occupying forces. That's the 2 command 2 war, because then that gives me access to a lot more command, which is obviously the point of this deck. So here we go, this is the next start. So there we go, we've managed to pull 1 piracy, a broadside, 2 intimidations and 2 skullduggeries. So this is turn 3 now, and we want to just be starting to rush and push things into the opponent's sort of basically just clamour after some objectives. So in this case what we would probably do, as long as there isn't a card out that says no rushing, which could happen, we'll actually spend 6 and we will rush. Well, we've got 3 options here. We can either rush 2 of the cutthroats or 1 of the necromancers. At this point I will probably rush the necromancer because obviously the cutthroats have an ability that works on deploying or rushing them. And there we go, we've got another 2 resources out. So choices. I mean, that's a little unfortunate now because I can't really afford it. I could either buy that or buy the Cultist Ritual. At this point I will probably buy the boarding action to get it down there. There we go, and we'll bank the piracy, so we're looking at buying the Cultist Ritual next turn. So we're on turn 3. We've only got 1 card out, which for this deck is very slow. But if you think about how many resource cards we've already purchased, so we've got 2 piracies, a broadside, 3 piracies, 2 intimidations and a skullduggery. So at this point we can really start pushing things out onto the table. We could pay 2 and 2 and we'll get ourselves the Cultist Ritual. So now we've got a glut of resources down here. We could then even look at paying, assuming the opponent's now got cards out, we could look at paying 6 to rush 1 of the cutthroats out, ping off 1 of their infantry. You know, we've scored a VP, we've scored another VP here, and now we need 2 and 2, which unfortunately we're a little bit short on. So best thing I would probably do here is I would probably spend a piracy to flip another Wandering Necromancer. So we've got a Hawk. I would probably then, we get into the whole sort of aggressive cycling of cards, I would probably then spend that Skullduggery to flip Hawk. And again, now we're starting to get into sort of the Risen Thrall sort of aspect of the list, and then we're looking at drawing up 6. So it's 2 there. Again, we'll get rid of 1 of the piracy. Draw another 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's up to 6 in total. So there you go. That's our hand now, and we've got just a glut of resources. We'll probably assume at this point that both of those are dead. Because it's a safer way to assume that things are going to die in this deck. As you can see there, we've got, again, loads of stuff to be playing with. Straight away I'd be looking at spending the 4 to get that Cultist Ritual, because then we can, is that a basic resource? It isn't, but now we know what we've got next turn coming up. And then if you look at this, we've still got access to 4, 6, 7, 8 war. Sorry, 8 command and 2 war. So we're probably looking at spending the 2 war, discarding it unless we manage to pull a nicer card. Again, I think we'd probably be looking at spending. Ooh, so we get a slightly. This again depends a lot on. This is now going to be into reacting to what your opponent is doing. So it's difficult to sort of play this play by play, but if we're looking to get as much stuff in and out of the deck as quickly as possible, your options here are we can either spend 6 and we can rush them out and thereby flip a Sea-Dog Rifleman, or we could look at spending, I know we've got this guy in our hand, but we probably want to be spending him to get stuff out of the deck, so we could look at spending 2 command there to get the Risen down to here. Because we could then spend 2 to get the Risen out of there, and then 4 to get the Warrior Thralls out of there as well. So at that point we're looking at, we're pulling the deck out of here, we're getting cards sped up, we're causing issues at locations for enemies. Generally speaking, I probably would have preferred to have rushed stuff out of here. Like, we've paid that 3 actually to deploy that from our discard, but actually I probably should have rushed that. And then there we go, we've got another Cultist Ritual, so I'll end up banking this Piracy so we can afford the Cultist Ritual next turn. That's just an example as to how the deck goes. I'm hoping that when we get more expansions come out, we'll be looking at being able to speed the deck up even more, because we'll have more access to resource cards. I'm also looking forward actually at some, I'm kind of hoping we get like Alexia, because again it allows me to carry on the undead theme of the deck, and that'd be quite nice. So yeah, that's the Thrall deck. That's how I'm running it at the moment. I'm sure it will change over time. As I've said, I've only really played against Cyrus and then in a 4-way game, so I'm looking forward to giving it a more thorough testing against more lists that people play. Like I said, we've got about 8 players at least locally, so I'm looking to give it a couple of proper rundowns, decent testing, before I finally settle on whether or not I do need to plonk any Warjacks in it. But I think that's probably going to be mostly modified by when the next expansion comes out in February, because Colossals are Colossals. So thank you for watching. That was Scapegoat Stephen. I'll say bye for now.